I'm at my end. I'm broken. I was ready to have my soul destroyed at this point because I had to leave it all in the ring. You're fighting for yourself, man. You're always fighting for yourself throughout life. This is Last Chance Saloon.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Getting Back Up with me, Anthony Ogogo. And today I have this saint on the podcast, Saint George Groves, former British, Commonwealth, European and former WBA super middleweight champion of the world. George Groves is the guy to bring boxing back to Wembley Stadium. Listen to the end. He gives you his secrets to success, how to be successful. George goes into detail about coming back from broken jaws, from getting knocked out by Carl Froch at Wembley Stadium, never giving up to be there at the end of the world title held above his head. It's an amazing episode. So, without further ado, let's get stuck in. George Groves. Hello, mate.
Hello, mate.
How's it going?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Very good.
Mate, listen, this podcast is called Getting Back Up with Anthony Ogogo because as boxers, that's what we do. We literally get knocked down. And all the greats got knocked down. Ali got knocked down. Tyson, Sugar Leonard, Robinson. And it's about getting back up, which is important. Like, your career epitomizes that. Like, your career was one of falling down 7 times, standing up 8, and yet still winning a world title at the end. So, mate, thanks for coming on today. I want to talk about your career, and we're going to build to the big, massive crescendo of you winning the world title, Bramwell Lane, 20-odd thousand people. But before we get there, I want to talk about the shit bits, the tough times, the adversity, because I want people to be inspired by your story, because it's a tremendous story. You're very articulate. You've got a great way of telling your story. When did you think you were going to be good? Did you always know you were going to be good?
Yeah, no, I always knew I was going to be good. Fearless, like I was always fearless. Unwavering self-belief, No, even when no one else believes it, no one else agrees with you, you back yourself.
Where does that come from, though? Because, does that come from winning? Does that come from your work ethic for training so hard in the gym? Because you can walk in the gym and not be very good and think you're the best boxer in the world, but that's just delusional, right? There's been a lot of boxers out there that are totally delusional. Where does that unwavering self-belief derive from?
Hard work and ambition, really. Yeah, you aspire to be the greatest of all time. That was my dream. I wanted to be the greatest fighter of all time. And then what do I need to do to make that happen? I had that from the get-go. So, yeah, you talk about 4 schoolboy titles. I think I went 28-0 as an amateur. No one did that. It's ridiculous. No one did that.
That's fucking nuts.
It was only when we went, we was travelling with England, fighting these really good fighters from all around the world who were like men dressed as boys, and you get bashed up, or you might get the odd bum decision and stuff like that. And then that dream got broken for me.
So at 28-0, mate, sorry to butt in, at 28-0, you went to Azerbaijan as a 15, 16-year-old, and you suffered your first loss. And you also got put over in that fight, right? You went down. So what does that do to you? You've amassed this amazing record, which does not happen in the amateurs, and you've lost, and you've hit the canvas. What happens to you then?
Yeah, it was. So I never got caught into pressure of keeping an unbeaten record, which because I think that happens for pros when they turn pro and they get they rack up. I mean, it don't really happen now, but in a bygone era, guys would rack up 3 years of unbeaten records, knocking over nobodies to get a 28-0 record or 30-0 record, and then they step up and fight into a 50-50 fight. I remember. So he sent us. We went to Baku in Azerbaijan, 2004. Very underdeveloped from what it is now. We stayed in a hotel. It was a tower block, right? And each floor was a different star level hotel. Right? So if you was on the 5th floor, which England was, and Germany were on the 5th, the 6th floor, they were 3 stars. Because we're the countries with a bit of extra money. We got toilets. Not being funny, it's a almost Middle Eastern country. So you went up another couple of floors, where the Russians were staying. They didn't have much money. They probably slept on camp beds on the floor and they had a hole in the floor for their toilet.
Piss in the
So it was a real tough place to be. Baku, you came outside. You're on the Caspian Sea front. There was like a smog or a fog or something in the air. There was lots of men, There was you never saw a woman. Like, I don't know if it was a cultural thing, religious thing. Like, you see lots of men, very dressed, like always very, very smart in their suits, just loitering and mingling around. They had the Lada cars. You never saw anything more extravagant than a Lada car. But when we arrived at the arena, it was a brand new, fantastic Olympic type complex. They'd done the draw. There was 4 Azerbaijanis at my weight. There was 2 Russians. There was 2 Ukrainians. It was usually.
And for the non-boxing fans, amateur boxing fans, like Azerbaijan, Russia, Ukraine, they're some of the best in the world.
Yeah.
Not just the best, but physically very tough and robust. And like you can fight Ukrainian. He's not particularly that skillful, but you've been in a fight when you fought a Ukrainian. They're all tough, they're all strong, they can all punch.
Well, yeah, and we're learning that in real time at this point, because usually you'll get one. The country would only send one boy each way. So to show up and you've got like 2 Russians at your weight, you're like, are they going to split the Russians either side of the draw? So at least you've only got to fight one of them if you win it. Azerbaijan some weights had 4, some weights had 5, some weights even had 6. And at the time there was a really strong nation because high up in Aiba was, and I think maybe even the president was from Azerbaijan then. I think a bit of corruption went on and he got kicked out a little bit later. But this was a big tournament for them. Much like we would put on the Olympics, in London or the World Cup. This was almost like
this was their World Cup.
This was their World Cup for now. An under 17 boxing tournament. Went out there. I was team captain, which was it's like being a milk monitor at school. Do you know what I mean? It's a job someone don't get paid for, but I took tremendous pride in it. I was tried to be amenable to the whole team. We had a whole team, 11 fighters.
Which is difficult because obviously you're going there for you. Like you want to be. So I was team captain after you when you went to the young England team, and I was a year younger than you. I stayed on and went to Europeans and the World Championships, and I was a team captain. And it's a difficult job because you want the whole team to do well, but being so competitive, you want to do the best, right?
Yeah.
And you want to do the best. It's hard to kind of like live in that weird environment where like you want your mates to do well, but it's not quite as well as you.
Yeah, well, that is the sport. It's not a team game. It's you're fighting for yourself, man. You're always fighting for yourself throughout life, in everything you do. So yourself and your family, your loved ones, your close ones, But that is what you'll have your teammates. A couple you'll be more close to than others, and then you are almost even more compromised because you desperately want. Your 2 or 3 mates or your fellow you're sharing a room with to definitely win gold, but you want to win gold and win best boxer of the tournament. You want to be I've always got to be that bit in front. I've always got to be you got to be the number one. And I think I'd encourage anyone and everyone, all the kids I speak to is like, be selfish, be ruthless, be the man in the arena, and be first. Like, dictate from the front. This is your show. This is a showtime. It's your show. Be there and enjoy it. In boxing, tremendous heartache, But when I finally achieve something, it's just that much better, that 100%. Much sweeter.
I don't remember you ever being like cocky or arrogant when you were like amassing these wins and these knockouts. Did a loss ever humble you? Like, particularly as a kid, I remember when I was a kid, I was winning national titles and I got cocky as fuck. I thought it was the best thing ever. And my coach put me in a match, against a guy called Michael Hanger from Southend on a Southend show. He wanted me to lose to kind of bring me down a peg or two. Ended up beating him, and I was as bad as ever. and it took me to have a couple of losses away at international level. But I thought, fuck, maybe I'm not as good as I think I was. Did that ever happen to you?
Yeah, I mean, we went to Cuba, didn't we? That was an eye opener. Me, you, Obed, Cal Yafai went. Um, that was good. I mean, that was an
Obed didn't go.
experience.
You took his spot. Obed got the mumps.
Oh yeah, yeah,
He
yeah.
got the
Obed got the
mumps.
mumps then.
You took
Yeah,
his spot as me,
yeah.
you, Cal, and Michael Hadfield.
Michael Hatfield. Yeah.
Because me, Cal, and we were gonna go because we won. I won the worlds. Cal had won the worlds. Obed and Michael got bronze medals. So it was a treat to us. A fucking treat. We didn't get to go to the Disneyland. We went to Cuba, Havana, a shithole with Jim Davison, and on a 2-week training camp where we had like a little exhibition with the Cuban junior team at the end. Mate,
Oh,
great days, man.
it
Great
was
days.
a wonderful trip. One of my favorite trips. So we get out there, Havana. I mean, anyone who's hasn't been to Cuba needs to go. It's amazing. Hopefully, it's still untouched. I know there's sanctions and relations with America are sort of yeah, but we trained with the national team. We went to their gym, which was terrible. You fell over and got electrocuted in the changing room.
I got headbutted and broke my nose, and I got electrocuted, mate. Great trip, but you know what? It took me because I went through a situation. I went through a couple of years where I was bitter and jealous of people. I was jealous of you because you boxed for Dale Youth and you got to spar with the Gale and all these O'Donnells and all these different people, and you got to train the people that were like just as good, if not better than you, to kind of help bring you along. I was jealous of Cal Yafai because he boxed at Birmingham Boxing Club, had an amazing gym, facilities, the pros were upstairs. He got to be around it. Obed, I wasn't jealous of him, but like no, but in serious, he's boxed for was a Fisher ABC, and again another famous boxing gym. I boxed in Lowestoft for AAA Boxing Club. I was the only person of any note from that gym. I was the best person from when I was 14 years old. I had nobody to chase, and I used to hate that. It used to really frustrate me. And our gym was a bit shit. Wasn't even the ring wasn't even a square. It was like a weird oblong thing. And I used to kind of be pissed off. And I used to be jealous and bitter about a whole host of things. That like, the gym wasn't good enough. Like you'd go and grab the gloves from the big bin, and you'd pick. No, you had to. I generally trained sometimes with 2 left-handed gloves in my hand because the gym was we were skint. And then I went to Cuba, right, and I learned so much from this trip. The main thing I learned was, remember their gym? It was an absolute shithole. It was a long, like, almost, it was a shit little gym, wasn't it, right? And their boxing bags, their wall bags were just tires, big tractor tires on the wall. And I looked around and thought, every Olympic champion from Cuba, and at the time they were the best in the world by a country mile, every Olympic champion from Cuba has trained through this system and they've come through this system. And I'm like, it's not about the gym. It's not about the gloves. It's not about the equipment. It's about you, right? And what's inside you and wanting to be the best. And I've learned that and I've carried that with me throughout my entire life. It's not about the equipment. It's about how much you want it and what you're prepared to do to become the best. And yeah, I learned that there in that shitty little gym in Havana.
Well, it was an environment where you can see how people had to be successful. Otherwise, you just get dropped. You just get lost. It was tough. It was tough. So they're making kids tough. It had no water in the gym. So if you remember, so we would come with water bottles, and they'd be hanging their heads out the window, like trying to get a bit of air. And then they'd say, "Can I have some of your water?" And you're like, "Yeah, but I don't want it back." You know, after he's slobbered all in it, and he gives it back to you, like, "Give it to your mate. Like, you can have that one. Brought that one in for you." And that, so back to being humble, I sparred Louis Garcia, who was, it was a spar. It was supposed to be a fight. It turned into an exhibition at the end, which was just a glorified spar. And that was the first time, probably the only ever time, where I've come away going, that guy can beat me. I need to improve. I'm not good enough. And I knew we were going to meet in the Worlds the following year, I think it might have been, or maybe even, yeah, it must have been the following year. And I was training with him in mind. First time I've had someone on my mind who I knew I was going to come up against. And I was like, I need to improve because I'm not better than him yet. And when that time comes, we're going to fight. I'm going to be ready. It was funny. We started and I thought I was sparring your guy, and you thought you were sparring the welterweight, and but it turns out like 2 days before they all dropped like 3 kilos, and then they all shuffled down a weight division. He was enormous, Garcia, for me. I thought I'll stick it on him
Ripped the
early.
fuck, weren't
Yeah,
they?
yeah, yeah,
Mate, he had muscles on muscles.
yeah.
And in that horrible, sweaty gym in Cuba, like, you walk in there and you're sweating your tits off straight away. And he had that molasses skin where, like, he just looked like a fucking, like he was going to walk on to do Mr. Universe.
Yeah, he was whacking this tire with the hammer when we get there outside. So they had the sledgehammer, and they must have built it for him just to keep him busy because he was super lazy. We would watch him do their sprints around the track, like their little 400, and he'd always be last. And then one of them would shout, one of the coaches would blow a whistle, shout at him, and then all of a sudden he's at the front again. I'm like, he's just lazy. I'll put it on him. So I jumped on him, and then I must have woke him up because after about 15 seconds of me trying to bash him, he just went, all right, fine. Whack, whack, and just bashed me like this eye shut. I don't know if it was my camera, your camera, or little Michael Hatfield's camera or someone, but someone's video on a little VHS, and you see Jim Davison, the club coach, get up, walk to the corner, ring the bell for me after about 2.5 minutes and go, that'll do you. Out you get, son. Go and have your dinner. Go on.
Go and have your dinner.
Yeah, I was like, wow, what happened there? Yeah, you had a broken nose. I think someone lost a tooth. Like, I think I come out probably the best with just a big closed eye.
Yeah. Mate, you learned a lot, White.
And there was a couple of other lads there. Weren't there? Some Scottish lads there.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
They must have got bashed up as well.
Yeah.
Because then they were desperate to take us out. They wanted to take us out to like down the town, and I had the because I had a closed eye, but I really wanted to go. So I was like, "Come wake me up," and then they didn't. I was fuming. Missed out on the night. I think you went as well. Missed out.
Rocky White, little Scottish lad. I think things are flyway.
Rocky, yeah. I
was a
remember
good
Rocky
kid.
later
Don't know
on.
the other one. Mate, your career is such a long one, and we spent a lot of time in your amateur career, but the pro career where it gets sexy. Right? We talk about the money, the this, the that, the big nights at Wembley. Do you want to talk about the broken jaw in Poland? I want to know, like, because you suffered a couple of knockdowns, you've always got back up, but that's like, from the outside looking in, that was the first like injury you had, which is a massive piece of adversity, right? Injuries, they took away my career, hindered my career, then took my career away. So, like, as athletes, but especially as boxers, you got to walk to the ring thinking you're Superman, thinking like you're impregnable, like you cannot get hurt. And then when you suffer something as dangerous as a broken jaw, did that change your mentality to think, oh, maybe I'm not as tough as I think? Maybe my body isn't as tough as my brain is, as my head is.
No, I don't think so. I think at that point we've had that. I've told you many times before. With the trip you went on with me, it was our first trip where we sort of mixed in with this senior crowd, and we didn't have many friends there. Like they had their clique, and then it was sort of we were trying to mix in with them. James DeGale went, so a middleweight rival for me. He won quite well. I boxed reasonably well, but got stuck in and got caught, broke my jaw in the second round or something. And you was close, but you'd lost it. And I remember laying in bed, you was laying in bed, we were both sulking. I was thinking, like, who do I want to be? Do I want to be you or do I want to be me? Like, you ain't got a broken jaw, but you lost. And have I got that mentality? If I'll go out on my shield, I would die for the cause. I've got a broken jaw, but I got the win. And I was just like, this is it. This is me. I'd much rather be me right now with a broken jaw. At the end of your career, you're thinking, you learn that it's not every battle, it's about winning a war.
As you get older, does the fear, so you're fearless when you're young, does more fear come when you get older?
Yeah, because you've got more to lose. Like, if I got nothing at this stage, what am I on, £500 a month? No, not even that, £500 a quarter, or something ridiculous for England's word. Like, so I had nothing to lose, but by the time it comes around and, there's millions on the line, win or lose, and you win, you're set for life. You lose, you've got to sell your house. Like, that's a lot more to contend with. And then it makes you think a little bit more logically and definitely rationally.
I never got to that level, unfortunately, because of many reasons. Does that change how you do things when the implications are that massive? Like, if I lose this fight, I might have to sell my house. Does that change how you do things in terms of, in a fight? Like, let's say you're boxing somebody, if that's your fourth fight on the way up, you might throw this combo, boom, 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 slip, backhand, left hook. In a fight when you got more to lose, do you think, fuck, if I do that, he might do this, and I might knock me out, and I'm not gonna do it? Does it change your approach yourself?
Yeah, well, I mean, multiple reasons and effects. Losing for certain reasons makes you sort of maybe change. At times, I've definitely been a bit more cautious. Sometimes you just have to throw the kitchen sink at it and hope for the best. I learned in certain fights when I'd overexerted myself, and talk about live within your comfort zone, live outside your comfort zone until it becomes your comfort zone, and living outside your comfort zone is every day when you're 16 years old on England squad, every day, we're doing the bleep test, I've got to finish first, and if I don't, it's my fault, because it's just that is what it is. We're gonna do this spar. I'm gonna come out on top. We're gonna play snakes and ladders after with Jim Davison upstairs on the top deck. I'm winning snakes and ladders. I'm gonna be the best. Live outside your comfort zone until it becomes your comfort zone. Then, once you get like further on down your career, it's a lot more. How when you're fighting 12 rounds, you don't want to be living outside your comfort zone for 12 rounds. You want to be well within yourself because of the stuff you've banked before. You've put yourself in the hurt locker. You put yourself in uncomfortable situations and positions, so that when you're supposed to be uncomfortable, you're comfortable. I learned that through fights. I remember boxing Glenn Johnson, and one of the toughest men that's ever laced up a pair of gloves. And I don't even know if he was old man in me or what, but I haven't watched that fight for a long time. But I remember during the fight thinking, I'm gonna get rid of him. I'm gonna get rid of Glenn Johnson. It's like what an achievement. Look at the shockwaves that are gonna go through the boxing world when I'll get rid of him after 5 rounds. And there was rounds where I was just almost emptying the tank, and then second round, the next round he comes out. He looks fresher than me because he hasn't exerted any energy, and now he's like, oh, he knows. He's like, I can't remember how old he was, probably like pushing 40 by the time I boxed him. And now he's like, right, I'm gonna gas this young kid out now and put it on him. It ended up being 12 grueling rounds, a real good win for me, comfortable win, miles ahead on the scorecards. But I remember finishing that fight, feeling, oh, thank God for that, because I could have come unstuck there, If he had a bit more about him, he might have put a bit more pressure on the 6th and then upped it again the 7th, and then come the 8th. I'm like, because I'd had my fight with Kenny Anderson for the Commonwealth title where I had to get off the floor to win. Sounds amazing. And no one really gave Kenny Anderson much of a chance, but he was a Commonwealth,
Well, real good fighter.
Amateur Commonwealth gold medalist. Super tough, strong.
Could hit.
Could whack a bit, like real strong. No, not really that explosive, and I wasn't right that fight. I'd supposed to have boxed 2 weeks before. I think I'd peaked and then had to re-peak. Didn't do the weight well. Had a bit of a virus. Box was real flat in the changing room. Start off relatively sharp and skillful, but then just get caught in the 3rd round, and my equilibrium's gone. And I'm like Bambi on ice. I'm just like skating around, hoping for the best. And he's marching me down. Fortunately for me, I do land some shots on him, and I get rid of him in the 6th. But that was a wake up call for me. It's like, wow, I've never been so exhausted in all my life. The lesson from that was like that: never give up, never say die. Just leave it all in there. Which is a half truth, it's not who wants it most sometimes. There's a lot more to it than that, but that will get you out of trouble from time to time. So make sure you got that. Make sure you got that in abundance, because sometimes you do have to just bite down the gum shield and slug it out.
When you first turned pro, you tore up, and like your first big fight in the amateurs, in the pros, was the Commonwealth title. You won that in your ninth fight, and back then, 15 years ago, people didn't win like Commonwealth titles in the ninth fight. Like you mentioned earlier, it would normally be 20, 25 fights of fighting nobodies and road sweepers. Maybe you had a little domestic dust up before you fought for your first like legitimate like 12 round title fight. You did it in your ninth fight against Charles Adamu, and you knocked him out, mate. You tore up. First couple of years, you really did well and tore up, didn't you?
Well, yeah, I remember I didn't have the courage that it felt like courage to do another Olympic cycle like you and Campbell did, right? So to have proof that I'd make the right decision for myself, but in some ways like me versus the system, I needed to get as much achieved in 4 years really as possible, so that I could look back and say I made the right choice.
Yeah.
Because you know, it's tough when your amateur setup where, and you spoke about it numerous times, where you have to wait 4 years for that opportunity and everything has to go your way, and you might break your hand the month before, you might have a shoulder injury, you might have something else, you might have some family issues, some bereavement, something to go wrong, and that just petrified me, as well as my dream was always to become a professional world champion.
You got your world title fight that you longed for against the reigning world champ Carl Froch. Without talking too much around the specifics, world title fight, Carl Froch. You are the British, the Commonwealth champion. You're undefeated as a pro. You're now walking in to face Carl Froch, who is probably number 1, number 2 Ring Magazine super middleweight in the world. I guess you walked into that fight with unwavering self-belief.
Unwavering self-belief.
And that, I guess, was the more you win, right? The more you win, the more confident you feel. I presume I certainly was. The harder you train, like my confidence came from how hard I trained, how much I wanted it. Now, by this point, you've racked up, what, 18, 19, 20 fights?
Yeah, about 19 as well.
19 fights, fighting Carl Froch. You had some adversity on the outside. Your promoter, trainer, manager, Adam Booth, you and him fell out. And I don't want to talk about the specifics. It's not about this podcast. It's about getting back up, not about, he said, she said. But you walked into this fight. You took the fight without a coach. You got a coach in short time. That's huge adversity. Somebody you've been with for a long time, you fell out. Having to take a world title fight with a guy you don't really know very well as your trainer just shows us how confident you were taking this fight. And unfortunately, we can talk about the fight, obviously, but you walked into that fight as the bad guy. You were kind of getting booed. Tell me the rest. What happened?
So now we come on to my first world title fight, and now it's about living with clear intentions and not wasting time. So both then roll into the first decision of parting ways with Adam Booth, who no longer shared my vision of how this had to work out, how it should work out. He wasn't prepared to dedicate the right amount of energy into me and into this big fight, my first big world title fight. It's pay-per-view, it's Manchester Arena, it's 20,000, it's huge, and I'm a massive underdog where I've been before. So rather than waste time and go with someone who might harm my chances of winning, I was more content with going it alone than delivering an unfinished or a lessened version of myself through working with this guy. So I parted ways. I found a new team. Some guys that I was already working with, and brought in some new ones as well. But I knew Carl Froch, the fight was set, the date was set. I had to get myself ready, get in there and shock people. The difference this time around was, although a lot of my behaviour was very similar to what it was in the Gale build-up, people would, they saw me as the underdog, but they wanted me to win, DeGale hadn't quite proven himself. Definitely not as far as Froch had. And Froch was now this poster boy of British boxing. He had a fantastic win against Butte, and then had just come off a big win against Kessler. So he had the power of Matchroom behind him, Sky Sports, everyone was behind him, and the British public just follows. So now I'm here, and sure, I want to get under Carl Froch's skin, but more than anything, I want him to believe that he's in a real fight, that this is going to be very difficult for him. Now, I'll happily be fully dedicated to the cause, fully dedicated to the win, knowing that I'm going to alienate myself in the process, if that need be, because I remember speaking to my mum and telling her, like, yeah, she's like, why you got to be like this? Why, people won't like you. And I felt sorry for them, because I know that my mum and my dad, they're probably having to explain to people, oh, I'm not actually an arsehole. Do you know what I mean? People come up to people where, why is he acting like this? Why is he doing that? But for a while, I couldn't compute. I mean, I had a chip on my shoulder because I felt like it was me against the world. I've got Adam Booth against me. He's trying to sue me. I've got Eddie Hearn against me. He's never liked me. I've got Carl Froch against me. Sky, no one's given me a fair shake. None of the boxing fraternity thinks I'm going to win. It's like, I've already shocked everyone with the DeGale fight. Why is no one backing me now? Have you not learned from your mistakes? But people felt like I had alienated them. I didn't give Carl Froch the acknowledgement that he felt he deserved or desperately craved. And for me, that was bizarre. I was like, why on earth am I going to comfort him when we're about to have a fight, when he's going to try and knock my head off, and I'm going to do the same thing.
But I'm sure you acknowledged how good he was in the gym when you were training. You knew you
were
you were fighting a top-tier fighter.
Yeah, top-tier fighter. But I've never fought anyone before or after that I don't think I can beat. Unwavering self-belief. I knew I could beat Carl Froch. I thought I'd beat him in really good style. I mean, maybe everyone's the same, maybe they're not, but maybe my opinion of myself is a little bit more inflated than everyone else's opinion of me. But why else would it not be?
Did you think it'd stop him? Did you think it'd knock him out, or did you think it'd outbox him?
No, I thought I'd put him away. Do you know what I mean? I thought I'm getting rid of this guy. I'm gonna hit him, and I'm hitting hard. And I was pretty explosive at the time.
What made you think that? Because he'd never been stopped before.
No, but it'd been over. It got dropped by Jermaine Taylor, got off the floor to win, and Taylor was kind of
towards the end of his
career, but a phenomenal fighter. I'd watched Andre Ward outclass him, so I knew he was there to be beaten, and I'd done a few rounds with Kessler, and I was like, yeah, he's great, but I mean, not enough to work out how a real fight would go. But I knew I was up for it. I was unstoppable. I was in the form of my life. I've never been so switched on and dedicated to something as I was there. This is my time to arrive. This is my platform. This is where life's going to change for me. And the more people that I was up against, sort of the more tenacious it made me, the more focused it made me. This is no time to waste.
How would you, if you just said then, like, the more people that kind of like wrote you off, the more tenacious you were, and the more you wanted to win to prove it to them. If everyone was saying, no, I think Grove's gonna win. I think I'm backing him. How would that have changed your mentality?
I think it would have made the fight a lot easier, to be honest, because
the fight or the build up.
Well, both. But like when no one gives you a chance of winning, that takes up energy. When you feel like you've either got to convince them otherwise, or bury it and forget about it. And that's what I've learned throughout my boxing was the good, the bad, doesn't matter. Neither. People say you're gonna do this, people say you're gonna do that. Take it all and forget it, bury it.
At that point, were you able to do that, or were you trying to convince people?
I was trying to convince Carl Froch. That was like DeGale. I wanted Froch to sit down at the end of the first round, the end of the fifth round, the end of the 10th round, if it goes that far, and go, this is all this stuff he said is going to come true, because fighters are ignorant. Fighters believe what they believe. People in general, just it's hard to change someone's mind sometimes. But I mean that would be shocking and frightening to be in a fight that you think should go your way and it's not, and then you start to drown. And I would never want to be in that situation. So and I've been in fights where later on I box Badu Jack and I get dropped in the first round to get off the canvas, and I'm like, Jesus, man, like what a terrible start. I need to get my bearings. Don't get stopped. This can't be over yet. Like, get your legs back. Then when your legs do come back, you're like, right, okay, let's just get some rounds in the bank. Let's win some rounds. And then it's like, right, let's put something on him. You can't get nothing on him. You can't really budge him. It's, okay, how many rounds to go? Let's count down his rounds. Let's just win this fight. Let's just get it done. So you don't ever want to be in that situation. And I don't care if people boo me on the way in, and they're going to cheer me on the way out. This is a fickle game. This is sport. It's not real life. It's not. It feels like it should be life and death, but it's not. But up until right here and now, this is a lifetime's work gone into this occasion. It's not the 10-week camp that you've had, or even the 3-4 year pro career. It's since you're 10 years old, 15 years of slugging it out to get to this stage. And you're on a tremendous platform to arrive, so you want to make it count. Froch crosses his legs when he punches. He got a great chin, but he's a bit of a gunslinger. He makes some mistakes. Essentially, he's easy to hit. Drop back off the back, bounce off the back leg, walk him onto a big right hand, and he's over, like in the first round. And the fight ain't over, but he's hit the deck.
When you hit somebody, like, I don't know how you experience, when I hit somebody hard, like you got different. Again, this is personal to me. I had different levels of hitting somebody. If I hit him hard, you'd feel like a clump on your knuckle. Hit him really hard, it'd shoot up to your elbow. If you hit him really hard, it'd be like you hit nothing, like you're shadow boxing. What was that punch like when you landed it? Because you hit him so hard and so true. Did you think it was over? Was it like a top 5% George Grove punch?
Well, yeah, it was definitely a really good punch on the button. So I throw a right hand, which is I lose my back leg on that one just before, and I sort of loop it over. And I had a tendency to sort of not throw the right hand straight. I just said where I would always try and take my head off the line, it ended up arcing over a little
Paul
bit.
Smith punch, I used to.
So Paul Smith was actually a right hook. So Paul Smith was jab up, jab down, jab up, jab right hook. It was something that I drilled in the gym beforehand. It was actually a set piece. So he's thinking about the jab, go up and down. The jab's really fast. You say, like, Smith couldn't really compete. I had height and reach on him, so he couldn't compete at that mid to long range with me. And then he just, after the jab up, jab down, jab up, he probably thought, same again. He goes to commit with his left hook, and then I just come over the top, but I sit into the legs there and time it perfectly where it just lands on the button. That was a crunching shot. That's probably one of the most satisfying and feeling right hand that I've ever landed.
Did you think it was over? Did you hope it was over?
Well, no, neither really. At that point, you don't want to hope, because I don't like to be that guy. But like, that feeling of, the fight's over, and then it's not. That's exhausting. Like,
Yeah.
I don't like that. It's the equivalent of like, you're doing your circuit, and they go, right, last round on the circuit, and then oh wait, we're gonna do another one. The panic would hit me, another tire drag or sled. No. I need to know exactly what's happening. A bit anal and pedantic like that. So, and I remember the shot just being wallop, like, boom, he's going down. Brilliant. Walk to neutral corner. Like, you're very muscle memory sort of trained at that point. It's like, there's a great shot, and in the front row is all my family. So my missus, her mate, my dad, my cousins, and they're all like, they're jumping out their chair, like, and it's celebration, as you do. But my face is just like very stoic, matter of fact, and then I'm already walking back to neutral corner. At this point, I'm thinking if he gets up, right, twitch him up, nice and quick, fast, get him fainting. and dig in one more time, at least a couple more times before the round's over, and even think to myself, hit him on the bell, because I know Froch is he hates me at this point, and if I hit him on, don't hit him after the bell because you might lose a point or get in trouble and ruin the first round. But if you hit him on the bell, he's gonna think, oh, and he's hit me on the bell, and I do, a wallop whacking, but it wasn't like, oh, that round's over, I've missed my chance. So it's like, I've already dropped him in the first round, 11 more rounds to finish him.
Something like hitting on the bell, like a strategic thing. Are you able to think that clearly when you're in the cut and thrust of battle?
Well, yeah, I was. Yeah, at this point, I am fully prepared for everything.
Did you visualize the fight?
I'd visualize many things in the build up. Different. I mean, not that specific thing. I'd never visualised dropping him in the first round or anything like that. I'd visualise the ring walk. I'd visualise how I want to present myself beforehand. Some stuff happens organically. So in that first fight, it just so happens that I don't have a big team at this stage. You know what I mean? I'm not. I haven't accumulated all these people, and the people that I have accumulated, they don't have any right to be in the ring because we are the B side. We're no one. So I've got my coach and a fighter that my coach trains, an amateur boxer called Luke Watkins, who actually turns professional and becomes quite a decent fighter. He wins a Commonwealth title, but he's suited and booted in as a security guard. So it's us three in the ring against Froch's team, and he's got everyone there because it's a big occasion for them. I'm sure all those people are going to him, can I get in the ring? And he's like, yeah. And he wants to intimidate me by having a big team, but it's the opposite effect. It's like, look at me and look at you hiding. Like, you're hiding behind these sea of people. They're all getting out in a minute, and it's just me and you, So that was how I wanted to portray it. And I know, I'm thinking in my head, I hope someone gets this on camera. I hope this looks as cool as I think it does, And someone does catch it on camera, and it does look pretty cool. Shouldn't be standing there staring him out. Paddy, my coach, who's a quirky guy, he's got his trilby hat on. I think it was a trilby hat that he had at the time. Probably like a little something or other in his mouth. He was saying he was always chewing on something. And then Luke Watkins in the corner, who's suited and booted, looks very, very professional. But yeah, the visualization that would happen in the build-up, I'd go running. I used to, obviously, you have to go running, but I used to go running in the dark at night in the pitch black. So I used to run around this old deer park, which is just an open bit of green in Richmond. And you can't help but just daydream, like you're sleepwalking really. And this wasn't a hard session, it's almost like a recovery session. You're building up endurance because you're running for 60 plus minutes, but it was just a real process. I processed the week, what's happened, how's the sparring gone, what do I need to do next, what am I going to say next, what are the questions going to be, some logistical stuff even, like some planning ahead, planning for the fight, and then obviously the fight itself as well. Visualize winning, visualize that feeling, having your hand raised, taking the belts, everything that goes with after a win beforehand, and then some little snippets of what the fight might be. So if the guy in front of you who's got a wicked left hook, and you've been drilling it in the gym about how you're going to nullify that left hook and what you're going to counter off, or how you're going to get him to commit to that left hook and how you're going to defend against it. You're going to go into it, you're going to come away from it, you're going to try and avoid it altogether. You're going to move away from it, you're going to go, you're going to encourage it. So stuff like that would come up, and then the shots that I always like to throw and land, and what that would think and feel like. I don't really remember visualizing knocking someone out.
Did you ever visualize being under the cosh, taking punishment yourself, and then prepare yourself in the moment? Because obviously in boxing, the old adage is, in boxing you're going to get hit. You can't go swimming and not get wet. You can't really box and not get hit. Did you ever visualize you getting hit, you being in a little bit of trouble, under the cosh a bit, and what you do to kind of get out of that?
Well, yeah, you can do stuff in the gym where what do you do when you'll say you're under the cosh, or you get buzzed, And how do you hold? How do you take an arm? How do you nullify? How do you slip and slide off the ropes? So, but I'd always break it down into like an actual technical move as such. Carl Froch is known for having a great chin and a great engine. So dropping him in the first round does not mean the fight is over. He gets up, and it's happening obviously in real time, and it feels like he jumps straight back up to his feet, and as soon as makes it, unless he's gone, then this fight is still happening, which it was. He's up. Didn't want to exert myself too much trying to finish it there and then. And who knows with hindsight whether that would have been the right thing to do or not. But I'd say I had the Glenn Johnson fight where I tried to finish the guy when I thought he was spent and he wasn't. So
the Travis Dickinsons from
Travis
years
Dickinson,
before.
exactly. So these guys are here. So this is what we're doing. This is the plan. I'm already miles ahead in this fight. It's already going all my way, and we're only a round in. So let's just keep going with what we got. It's a really exciting fight, a great fight to watch. Not necessarily if you're a Cole Froch fan at this time, because he's taking a lot of shots, a lot of punishment. He can't get a bearing in this fight. He mentally wasn't quite ready for it. He wasn't switched on. I think he's definitely a student of the art in that he has to tick the boxes in terms of his preparation physically to know that he's able to fight, and that stuff must come very easy to him. So he knows he's got to run in this, run this distance in this time and do this many chin-ups and do this much sparring and do this and do that. But mentally, I don't think he really wanted to compete with me because I was making it difficult for him, and I was winning.
Were you a better athlete than him? Like, were you physically fitter and stronger than him?
No. I mean, maybe I'm definitely a more explosive athlete than he was at that stage, and I was at that stage. But I'd say he was a better athlete than me in other ways. Like he had better stamina than I did, more of an endurance type fighter. So he can punch very hard. I mean, you've sparred him. I can also punch really hard. He's definitely got a great chin. So he's certainly got a better chin than I do. I'd say that technically I'm a better fighter than he is. I think I've got a lot more to my game than he does. He's banking on his endurance. He's banking on his conditioning. And he's hoping that I'm going to tire late and that he's going to get to me. We will never find out because Hal Foster stops the fight prematurely. Me and Carl have done a lot of talks together now, and I think that's what the only thing we can both agree on is that the fight was stopped prematurely. His belief is that he was going to go on and come on strong and finish me, and my belief is that is total and utter nonsense. But we're allowed to have them different opinions, and it's fun because we go to different crowds, different people, different around the country, and some things are split different ways. But
after that first round, such a heavy knockdown, he showed tremendous grit to get up and fight on. And he was a bit shaky for a couple of rounds, but eventually he did kind of start boxing his way back into the fight. When he's doing that, and you said like round 1 and 2 and 3 were so dominant, and the tide did start to shift, he was starting landing heavier blows on you. Well, first he was landing shots, and then heavier shots. He was getting his foot back into the fight. Where you at that moment mentally?
So, I mean, that fight in particular, he has a torrid time from the start, and then in the 6th round, he has his worst round. Even though he doesn't go down, he has his worst round. It's a free target for me with the right hand, and I go a little bit right hand happy. I throw too many right hands, and I can't miss. And at that point, I've probably punched him numb. It's a weird expression, but it's like the fight's now settled. We're 6 rounds in. We're both very tired. It's been a very physically demanding fight. The explosiveness that I have at the start of the fight has dulled a touch because we're fatigued, but I'm still landing full-blooded heavy shots, and he's not riding or evading any of them whatsoever. He's just taking them. The 7th round, so now we're halfway. And I'm fully content and happy to win this fight on points. 7th round.
Do you think you have to at this point? You mentioned, I know exactly what you mean, you punch him numb, those shots, those heavy shots. if you don't knock him out early, you're probably not going to knock him out now. Do you think now you're going to win on points? Is that where your head's
At
at?
this point, I'm like, right, well, I need to go back to a surprise attack because he knows everything that's coming. I'm trying to take off his head. So I've got to go back to a surprise attack. So I take my foot off the gas a little bit in the 7th round. But the problem I've got with someone like Cole Froch is he is now desperate for anything that he can feel is a swing in his direction. So even just him not getting beaten up as bad,
Is a
he
win
sees
for
him
him.
getting back in the
Yeah,
fight.
yeah.
It's like, no, you still lost the 7th round. You know, you're still losing the 8th. But I'm just trying to, I suppose, conserve energy. Save for them last 3 rounds, which is 10, 11, 12, which is championship rounds, which I've been time and time again. You know, I say I've been 12 rounds with Glenn Johnson, with James DeCow, and a few others as well. I've been training as a 12-round fighter since my 9th fight. That's when I was a championship level fighter. So, yeah, you know, it's just how this is the problem with boxing is because it's so subjective. It's just an opinion sport, and it's fought with emotion. So you get blinded by that, and I'm sure I'm blinded by it. Carl's blinded by it. The fans are blinded by it. There's a slight lull in the 7th round for me. The 8th round's pretty good. The 9th round, I'm now picking back up for these last 3 rounds, and then. We've watched the clip time and time again. There's nothing really happens. It's sort of there's a barge. We sort of stumble into each other. I bounce off the ropes. He throws 2 shots. One of them lands. I'm still punching back. All the stuff that you would consider a real fight. Not in any serious trouble. And then Howard Foster jumps in the finish.
Have you spoken to Howard about it?
No, I never spoke to Howard about it. He's reffed my fights with since, and he's judged a few times. The British Boxing Board of Control don't allow their officials to speak after a fight. So it's, you know, like the Premier League, you're not going to get when a referee makes a bum decision, you're not going to get Sky Sports putting a thing under their face and then talk about it. So I agree with that. I think that'll be too much pressure for the officials. They've got a difficult job enough. Don't get me wrong, I think Hal Foster made a bad choice that night, and it would mean the world to me if he one day, in confidence, pulled me to the side and said, please don't tell anyone this, right? But I'm sorry, I made a mistake. You know, I don't think he'll ever do it. I don't think he even believes he made a mistake. I think he backs himself in that regard. He's got unwavering self-belief. But on review of the tape, I'm in no trouble, and he hasn't spared me. He hasn't been compassionate towards me because he's not a compassionate guy if you relate it to the pounding and the beating that he let Cole Froch take. The problem I had was that everyone thought that I was going to get beat that night. That I might make a decent effort early, but Froch will get me late. He's got the championship level experience. He's a tough guy. I run out of steam. He stops me. It's what every pundit said in the build-up. It was what every fan you spoke to in the street would say. It's what people were telling Howard Foster in the build-up, which we have found out. You know, people are sending it to him on Facebook and stuff like that. And then in the moment, he's made a mistake. And whatever, you know. Don't get me wrong. I say now I would never change anything in my life because I'm happy now. You know, I am happy with what I got out of boxing, how it finished for me, and I wouldn't roll the dice on changes. Don't get me wrong, I think I could have. There's a strong possibility I could have been an awful lot more successful than I was, and that would have been if Howard Foster didn't stop that fight the first time. It might have been if I didn't get knocked out in the rematch. It could have been many different things, but I don't like when people say, oh, we wouldn't have had Wembley if we didn't have that stoppage. Because, like, well, you know, maybe not. You never know. But also, I was a terrific salesman at the time. And Cole Froch would have definitely wanted revenge. And we would have turned that into a mega fight, you know. And maybe Cole Froch would have had to have engaged a little bit more in the publicity for the rematch than he did.
Could have been a bigger fight, yeah.
And it could have been even bigger. So, but I wouldn't change. I wouldn't necessarily change anything. As I say, at that point in my life, I've got no time. Don't waste time. I've got no time to waste, and I'm trying to live with clear intentions.
And you were quick, so massive. That's great, man. I mean, I'm very proud of you watching that fight that night. I was gutted you didn't win the fight, but like you walked away, and as I mentioned earlier, like people booed you on the way in, but they really cheered you on the way out. And I think you endeared yourself a lot to people in that fight. it's not the world title. Of course it's not, but like at least you got something out of that. You got love and respect from the boxing fans and aficionados around the country, and that swell for George Groves grew and grew and grew. And was there much time to be disappointed? Obviously you were disappointed, but you lost a massive fight. You lost your role as a professional boxer. You lost the world title fight. You always thought you could become world champion. I don't think you ever thought you were going to lose a world title fight, especially not the first one. Obviously you were disappointed, but like, because of how it all ended and the hullabaloo surrounding Howard Foster and this, that, and the other, and when the stoppage, was it too early? Was it the right time? You went, again, outside looking in, you went straight back to work to get the second fight. Was that the case?
Yeah, straight back.
There's no time to kind of lick your wounds because you had an agenda, get the rematch.
No time at all. So the fight gets stopped. Howard Foster stopped the fight. I'm in the ring. I can hear the crowd are not happy. I can hear the boos ringing through. I need to capitalise on this moment because I've got no promoter, I've got no manager, I've got nothing. I had a world title fight, and now I don't. I'm not world champion. If I'd won the fight, then I've got everything. Now I've got nothing.
Did you have to relinquish your British and Commonwealth belts before the world title fight?
Yeah. I think I'd already relinquished. I got stripped of the British title way before then, just through inactivity, and I'm not sure what happened to the Commonwealth. I think I'd vacated it.
So yeah, you had no belts.
No belts, no nothing. I
promoter,
mean, so sit down on the ring apron, and I've got to now negotiate myself into a rematch through public demand. So it's a performance, like, begin straight away. I can't sit down and go, it's fucking Howard Foster, he's useless, fucking, because I don't think that's what people want to hear right now. I don't want to praise Carl Froch either, but I want everyone to know that I've been robbed and I don't deserve it, and I want to try and drum up some public sympathy and use that to negotiate a rematch. I know Carl Froch is not in a rush to fight me again. He wants big fights for easier fights for big money.
Yeah.
But I know him as a man, something that I admire about him, appreciate from him, something I can see myself, is that he's never shied away from the big fights. He's always pushed on. Sure, we all like a nice touch from time to time, but if there was pressure for a big fight, then he'll take it. And then once I got myself reinstated as mandatory challenger for the IBF, if he didn't want to fight me, at least I'm fighting for a world title, But I know at this point, it ain't going to be hard to just turn the key and get that rematch, avenge that loss. I didn't really have time to process the loss. Years later, I processed the loss.
Did it hit you years later?
Well, yeah. I mean, I can't forgive myself or anyone else involved for losing that first fight with Froch until I become world champion, which I didn't realise I was carrying around that burden for so long. For so long I thought the burden came from the rematch at Wembley, when I get knocked out in spectacular fashion in front of a record attendance, making British boxing history. And this time it's not who wants it most. It's not Kenny Anderson, you get dropped, get off the floor and get it. This is, you make a mistake at top end, or even just in boxing in general, make a mistake for a split second and boom, someone will turn your lights out and you are gone, you are finished. And that was hard.
Because there was no controversy. It was just black and white. You got banged out in front of all these different people, and that was it, right?
Well, this had been 6 months in the making, sort of thing, in that, or maybe even longer. By the time we boxed at the end of May, we'd been in camp, it felt like, for Froch since 10 weeks before the first fight in November. So we're talking about from September the year, and we've been getting on for 8-9 months. And now are people going to surmise the last 9 months with one punch? Are people going to now forget the effort of the first fight and the fact that I was doing really well in the second fight? Different sort of fight, different tactics. It didn't catch fire like it did the first time. Much more of a technical battle, but I was winning the fight. Everything was going sort of our way. I was supposed to build into the fight in the second half of the fight, and in that 8th round or 9th round, whatever it was, I was actually winning the round and winning quite well. I started to land some heavier shots on Froch.
You landed a great, if I remember rightly, I've never watched it back, but you landed a real nice screw shot, at one point in the fight, and I thought, oh, he's warming into it now. Now he's found his range.
Yeah, and then you're like, boom, done, gone, and you're on your own again. You know, and you're in no man's land. I just signed a promotional deal with Sauerland, with the Sauerland brothers, Kala and Nissa. So, I mean, and I felt guilty towards them. I was like, oh, I'm sorry, man. That's not what you signed up for. You signed up for a world champion who just won at Wembley. They were great. They were really supportive. They didn't pressure me, but they also were anything I was up for. They was right in tune for. It was tough, man. This part of the journey is taking responsibility. Yeah. So I had to take responsibility for the loss at Wembley, for the horrific loss at Wembley, and get back to it, man. The problem that I had was I thought I was a world champion. I thought I was a world champion without the belt. I thought that after the first fight. I thought, oh, I'm world champion without the belt.
When
now,
did that kick in? Like, because I always, in my short pro career, like, I always felt like I was the uncrowned Olympic champion and an uncrowned world champion from day one. You felt the same. When did that happen? Now, when did you feel like you should have been? Was it just the world title fights?
Since the world title fights, that's when I felt like I was genuinely.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Tell people, I could happily start a conversation with I am the world champion, but I'm not. I don't have the proof in the pudding. I was waiting to collect my belts at Wembley Stadium, and then I get knocked out, and it's still hard to shake. Still hard to shake that feeling of, well, you haven't just lost your world title. You never had it. I had to take responsibility for that, and I carried that round all the way for 15 months, where I fight. You know, I go from Wembley Stadium, 80,000 people, record attendance, to Wembley Arena. Struggled to sell 8,000.
Well, I was before that. So was the next fight Wembley Arena?
Wembley
the
Arena.
Next one?
Back to Wembley.
Because I've written down here, I was doing some research in your career, and I've written down how hard. I remember, and tell me if I'm wrong in dates and timeline, but like, it must have been hard going from selling out Wembley Arena. Now, I like Halfwatch, as you know, and I trained him, and I sparred him a lot, and he helped me a lot in my career. But he's not the kind of personality to sell out Wembley Arena. Like, he needed you. Like, he was the world champion. You were the draw, in my opinion. Great fighter, tremendous fighter. People love to watch him fight, but like, you brought all the fans to the stadium, in my opinion. Now, at some point, you went back to fighting on a Nathan Cleverly undercard. Like, what does that do to your mentality and your psyche? As I said, like boxing, being the star at Wembley, to boxing on an undercard of a fighter that you're a bigger name than.
It's a fall from grace, massive fall from grace.
Is it humbling? Is it a humbling experience?
No, yeah, it should be, but it's taking responsibility. Do what you got to do. Eat the shit sandwich and just fucking dust yourself off and crack on. Like,
you weren't too prideful to refuse to do it because you're George Groves.
No, you got to do it. You got to do it. So you go from pay-per-view headlining to headlining European title fight final eliminator for WBC on a free-to-air show in the arena. And then next fight, you're an undercard fighter. You're an undercard fighter for a pay-per-view in Liverpool. It's a keep busy fight. And yeah, I could have insisted, no, I'm not having that. I'll take less money and headline. But it was the right decision at the right time to take that fight, to keep busy. It was good money, and it was on a pay-per-view platform. When the main event, it was interesting, but it wasn't. They weren't two household names at the time. Bellew is obviously a big star now, but at the time, not really. Against Cleverly, not really. So
it was like it was a boxers fight, wasn't it? It was like the boxing fraternity were bothered about it, but like Jenny from down the street, she wasn't standing up to watch it, and she wasn't paying 20 quid to watch it.
No, they had to bolster it with an undercard, so they had me and De Gale on the undercard, so just two rivals on the undercard. Me obviously coming off the Wembley show, I was probably the biggest name on the card at that period of time. So, you know, but that was what it was, man. And I was getting no love. I'd signed with the Sauerlands, who didn't have a UK TV outlet, so I ended up boxing on Matchroom cards a lot. And then when I finally challenged for the world title, for WBC world title, we have to go to the States and we fight on a Mayweather card, which was shown on Box Nation. So a subscription channel that hardly anyone was watching. Another huge fall from grace, but whatever, man. Like the final goal didn't leave me. Yeah, I've had these hiccups, I've had these hurdles, but it just you have to show adversity, you have to show resilience. I win a world title against Badu Jack. James Zagao is now the IBF world champion. Our paths could easily cross again in a unification. That would then straight away, if we sell it right, be a massive, massive mega fight.
You mentioned something at the very beginning, and it's the same thing, but it's a different thing. We mentioned about our training camps back in Crystal Palace, and banking all that hard work, and banking that resilience, and banking all the great attributes that we developed at that time. In a similar vein, it's like the DeGale fight. He's now IBF world champion, and because of what he'd already banked, even though you had that big setback against Badu Jack, you always know that there's a fight there. There's a potential fight there for a world title. That all you got to do is get a promoter interested in it, and he could be fighting again for the world title because of all the hard work you banked already. That's cool.
Yeah. I remember the Badu Jack camp was real hard, and I just had to tough it out. Mentally wasn't really happy. Nowhere near happy. I was away from home. We ended up spending 7 weeks in Big Bear, California, and then driving down the road for fight week to Vegas for the bout. But it was tough. You're at altitude, so it's hard to breathe. You go to bed at night, you don't wake up feeling refreshed. But it felt like, right, this is one last push now. This is one last push. I felt like had the weight of the world on my shoulders since that first fight with Froch. And I just had the sense of there will be relief after becoming a world champion. I was desperate for it. But the truth was I wasn't quite in the right frame of mind. It was a bit different, it was a bit weird. I don't know if that was because I was away from home for a long time. I don't know if it was because I just felt really lonely in the boxing fraternity because you've gone from Sky Sports following you around and everyone interested in your fights. So this world title fight, people are asking me, am I excited to fight on the Mayweather undercard? I'm like, mate, last year I was at Wembley Stadium. I don't give a shit if I'm on an undercard for Mayweather or not. This is a fall from grace for me, believe me.
Was your relationship with boxing at the time, was it beginning to get strained?
Yeah, I hated boxing. It
was just a world title, something you needed.
Well, yeah, world title opened. I wasn't financially secure yet. Still had a big mortgage. Still had stuff like that to contend with. So I couldn't leave the sport at that point. It wouldn't work for me. It felt like a must win. As I say, the pressure was building, and the one thing I could control was the fitness and the training and stuff like that. So I was in great shape. Was really light for this camp. Sparring went really well in London, but not so great when I got to Big Bear, and I probably overtrained a little bit in hindsight.
Which is common, isn't it? It's common when you have like a big competition or a big tournament or a big fight. You often think, I've got to do extra. But oftentimes you just got to do what you got to do, right? You got to do what brought you to the dance in the first place.
It was tough, man. I think I'd probably, again, overtrained, maybe peaked a little bit too early. I remember weighing in, being really confident and comfortable that I was really done great on the weight, and then stood next to Badu Jack, and he just looked like a giant. And I was thinking, wow, this guy must have cut a lot of weight. Wonder how big he's going to be tomorrow, And then you're thinking, maybe the old cutting weight last little bit, so you're a little bit heavier on the night, ain't a bad idea, because if I've been walking around at 77.5 kilo and I'm weighing in at 76.2, fight night, I'm not weighing much more than 77.5 kilo, because otherwise I'm just got a swollen belly, Whereas if I'm walking around at 81 kilo, cutting to 76, I'll go back to 81 kilo. It's a big man. That's what I did for the first 2 Froch fights, and that's kind of what I did the only time I didn't really do that was Badou Jack. So tough fight. It starts, dropped in the first round, up you get.
What happened when you got
Right
dropped?
It wasn't. It was like a disorientating punch. He shows down and shoots high, and it's a real green move for me to get caught with. I clearly wasn't warmed up properly for that fight. So it was they didn't play my ring music. We warmed up in this shitty little changing room at the MGM. They didn't play my ring tune. I got in there. There was like loads of fussing and farting around, and I was in a bad mood, And I think I started the fight and I was a little bit jittery. I hadn't settled in properly and controlled the nerves, and tried to impose myself a little bit. And again, not quite as big as usual. And yeah, I'm sure he catches me with the right hand that sort of I lose my I get caught and I'm not quite there, and I'll try and punch back straight away, try and punch my way out of a situation, and then he does it again. He just comes over right hand, and it's just like a touchdown there, but it's obviously a proper knockdown, and I've lost my balance. Get up. I'm super fit at this stage. Like I've probably never been so fit. And fitness gets me off the floor, fitness gets me through that first round, and fitness gets me through the whole fight. Never did I feel like I was able to hurt Badou Jack.
He's just so strong.
Maybe, definitely. I think he's definitely a strong guy with a good chin.
You just
but
didn't feel
also,
as
I didn't
powerful.
have that power. Yeah, I didn't have that power for that fight. I sort of trained that out myself with too much endurance. I'd spent like nearly two and a half years now, or maybe a bit less, then with Paddy, my coach after Adam Booth, who was an endurance, like he was a combination puncher, which is exactly what I wanted from him, But we'd lost a lot of explosiveness in the build-up.
Which was what, since being a kid, one of the reasons why you won those 4 scoreboard badges, because what you were, right? That's what you
Yeah,
were, explosive power.
come the pro game, I'd learned to be genuinely explosive, not just forceful and heavy-handed. Like use the legs to bounce out, use the hips, whip them in, punch, slash through the target, just like David Hay, or to mimic them sort of guys, them sort of fighters. But Hay wasn't a great combination puncher; he'd lose his legs, so this was like something that I wanted to work on. So brought in Paddy, but he discouraged punching hard. It was more about being loose, like James Toney and guys like that. But that was never quite me. I didn't want to be that guy, James Toney. I love him. I love watching him. I think he's a fantastic fighter. He punches loose. He can definitely whack. And he rides the shots and he can punch in punches. But for me, I always needed to be able to hit that back leg on fire, hit that front leg, whip a hook, bodies drop back, be able to use my legs and hips to generate that power, and I didn't have that in the Badou Jack fight, and I ended up grinding it out. I remember just counting down the rounds. I was being told in the corner that you're winning these rounds, so the relief was there. There was never anxiety.
Did you think you were as well?
Yeah,
you felt like you were winning the
So when
rounds?
the fight was finished, I looked out at the crowd, my wife, my best mate, Calla Sowland, a couple of others of the team, and I can tell by their faces, they don't think what I think. I think I've won this by a country mile. Badou Jack was there, brave, but I was picking up the rounds, and that was good enough to be busy in Vegas. And then they go split decision. I'm like, what? And I'm thinking, not like I deserve it or surely, but it's just prayers. It's just like, oh, please. And it obviously goes in Jack's favour. And then I just a bit of sheer disbelief. Initially thought his blame. I'm like, Paddy, you're away with the fairies, man. Why didn't you tell me? Blame at Calla Sowland as well. Why has no one told me? What? I feel like I've been on my own for the last however long it's been since before Froch 1, and I'm still on my own. Like I'm supposed to have accumulated this team now, and you've let me down. But truth is, it's not Calla's fault. They all work for me. It's the way that I'd sort of set it up, and yeah, disappointing from Paddy, but I forgave him straight away. Later on, we haven't spoke for a long time, because after the fight, we part ways. I sort of have call a meeting the next day and say, I thank you for your time, for your dedication, for being out here so long, but I'm going to have a break from boxing. Because at this stage, my life is always been, what am I going to do after boxing? But now it's, what do I do instead of boxing? Because I'm at my end. Like, I don't know if I can come again. I don't know if I want to. I'm broken. But rather than need to blame someone and scream in someone's face, Barry O'Connell and Paddy into a room, and I thank him. Paddy releases a statement the following week via his, local gazette or something, and I felt like he'd thrown me under the bus to preserve what he felt that he'd had, because he's now trying to train pros and try and do something. Throws blame at my wife, and it didn't sit right with me. So I've bit back a couple of times over the years, but I've left him to it, and I haven't really spoken since. But I don't harbour any bad resentment against Paddy, even though we don't talk now. And I forgive him because I know if he forgives me, if there's anything that I need to be forgiven for, because he was on. I brought him in to a high pressure situation, huge occasion. He went from being an amateur coach in Swindon and an assistant coach in a couple of pro gyms to Manchester Arena pay-per-view world title fight, to Wembley Stadium, biggest fight in British boxing history, to then trying to be part of my team and rebuild with me in real time. And then went to Vegas, and he wasn't good enough as a coach, but it should have been up to me to identify that and replace him. And I wanted to, but I didn't have the courage to actually pull the trigger, because I changed coaches before the first Fox fight and hadn't got the victory. So I didn't know who to replace him with. Definitely wasn't going to replace him now. But I think he's a very knowledgeable boxing guy, and his real talents will lie as an assistant coach. But no one wants to be an assistant coach. So, but
especially when you've been to the big dance.
Yeah.
Miami and Wembley Stadium.
Well, it's time now for me. It's time to take responsibility. So leave it a little while. What feels like a lifetime of deliberating, but I decide that I am a boxer and I can't leave this sport without achieving my goal.
Was that hard? Was that a hard decision, or did you just need like time? Because from, you said November 2010, or 10 weeks before when the first fight was made, to this point, you've been relentless. You've been boxing. The stresses, the ups, the downs, the adversity, the emotional and physical turmoil in your body. You just needed a break. Get some clarity. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. I truly realised that I wasn't a world champion walking around without the belt. I met up with a chap called, I'm not sure if you've met, David Leonard, who, and he said one thing to me that really stuck, and he's like, you think you've climbed Everest, and you've got to the top, but you haven't. You climbed near the top. You got 10 feet from the top, and I hung around there, and I come back down and telling people I climbed Everest, but I didn't, man. I got there. I need to go right the way back down to the bottom and then go again. That was kind of how I processed that, because you can't linger 15 feet from the top looking for your belts when they're not there. You'll die. And you have to come back down and go again. And that's what I did. I just come back down, took a breather. Right, what have I learned? What do I know? What do I need to do now? I need to make some changes, make some sacrifices, make some changes. And the last point, when I talk to people about unwavering self-belief and resilience, the last point I come to is be willing to restart, be willing to start over, to rebuild, to reboot, to just start again. And that is the hardest thing. It's been the hardest thing for me to attain to that point, because how do you start again when you put so much in already? Like, how do you then just go, that can go in the bin, let's start again? But that's kind of what I did. I didn't rush it, but I didn't want to waste time. I've got to keep
How old
going.
are you at this? How old are you at this point? After the
28 now.
belly.
28.
So you had a hard.
Oh wait, no. 2015, 27.
You've had a hard career. Got some big
Yeah. I
fights.
mean, like I've been pro 7 years. There's a lot's happened in that time.
Emotionally as well, like splitting up with coaches and stuff, and world title fights, losing, having to come back, and all takes its toll. Being away from your family, all takes its toll. Do you realise that? I mean, you must realise that you got no. Unfortunately, we can't do things at 40 that we did at 25. The time dial, the sand dial is going, and you got a limited amount of time to achieve your dreams.
Yeah. So at this point, two things were quite poignant. Is that I don't think I could have come again. Like, so this time had to be the right time. I couldn't leave the sport without becoming a world champion, and that went right the way back, like full circle to when you're 7 years old. When you dream about becoming a world champion, professional world champion, all the reasons and that I'd sort of ended up on this path was to become a world champion. And as you grow up, as a kid, you think world champion just means you're the best in the world, everyone loves you, you're rich and famous and everything else that goes with it. But you grow up, you realise that, money is important, family is important, you have to, you're now got a lot of responsibilities, a lot of things are important, and maybe world title ain't so as important as other things. But it come full circle where, no man, I don't care about anything else. I have to become world champion. So design the route back. I gave your one of your old coaches, Rob McCracken, a call. He was a coach for Frotch for both our fights. I knew he liked me, and I knew he had proof in the pudding. I knew, he'd trained the guy who beat me. So I'd eat that humble pie. Again, just give him a call, see what he says. And he kindly agreed. We did a couple of sessions together. We didn't quite, I don't think we quite gelled. It wasn't quite the right guy for me, but I met Shane McGuigan, who was doing really well. He was a coach based in London, which made a lot of sense. We sort of crossed paths a couple of times, but he's younger than me, which was bizarre, and I wasn't sure what he knew, what he was capable of, but he was having great success. He had trained Cole Frampton to become, from pretty much beginner level pro to world champion. He had his dad in the gym, who was someone who had overcome adversity, dealt with the fame, dealt with the pressure, former world champion, and loads of other great, hungry young fighters like Conrad Cummins, Josh Taylor, and a couple of others, as well as him just taking on David Hay, who was someone who I knew who'd only trained exclusively with Adam Booth, who was a good coach. But if he thought Shane was as good, if not better, than Adam Booth, then that was definitely worth me taking note and listening. And we gelled straight away. We had a great rapport. We got on. He fought like I fought. We shared the same ambition to become a world champion, and just kick on and get it done, man. The first fight was in January. It was in the Copper Box in Stratford. No one's interested in boxing in January, are they? They're still stuffed with turkey, still hungover from New Year's Eve. But this was come back, get a good win at an easier level. It doesn't need to be a final eliminator for a world title, but just get back on TV, back on Sky.
Who'd you
back
fight?
Winning. I fought an Italian guy called De Luisa.
I remember. I was there for that.
Did you come for that one? Yeah. He got stopped by Lucien Boutte, right? So that was, and other than that, he might have had one or two other losses, but that was his measure. I was like, all right, well, Boutte stopped him. I've seen enough of him. That'll do. From there, we fought David Brophy, who was a Scottish guy, unbeaten, I think. Good fighter. Comfortably dealt with him, and then straight on to Martin Murray, who's kind of like me. 4 times, he'd had 3 or 4 attempts at a world title at that point. I'd had a few attempts at world title. Neither of us had managed to get our hand raised at the end. It was billed as a 50-50 fight. And I liked Murray.
Which I always thought was strong. I boxed on that card, as did the OT, wasn't it? I boxed on that card. And I thought, it's not 50-50. Like, I felt like people were, even though you'd been through so much and you'd shown such promise, like, I felt like people were like disrespecting you by making that, because he's a really good fighter, Murray, really good fighter. But come on, like you were a level or two above, and I think you showed that in the fight. Like you boxed his ears off, and that annoyed me for you. People saying, "Oh, it's a pick'em." That's just not a pick'em.
Yeah, well, he's a career middleweight, and I was a big super middleweight.
Yeah.
So, and he sort of said that I can't make middleweight no more. I'm coming up. I think he had one win at super, and then super middleweight, and then the fight got set up. It was chief support for an Anthony Joshua fight, and when they were still trying to build Anthony Joshua, so this was a fantastic, sort of chief support. Two Brits, well known, former world title challengers.
I mean, that was a great fight. I mean, that was a great fight for you to box somebody with a great name, beatable. He'd been beaten before at that elite level. I thought that was a great fight. A great fight for him to try and take your scalp. I think whoever made the fight was a great fight. But I mean, I think you boxed great. I think you boxed really well that fight.
Yeah, no, I think I was happy with the performance. Boxed well.
I think you showed people that there was still life in you. Like you weren't done yet. That fight was like I can still do this.
Yeah. I mean, I tried to get rid of him, couldn't get rid of him. He's a very smart fighter. And I'd lost three world titles attempts, right? But most guys that have lost 3 world title attempts, they're going to get beat, But I'd never gone both of them fights, I believed I was going to win. The second one he was probably even on the bookies thing. Badou Jack, I was favourite to win, so I just hadn't gone my way up until that point. But I'm drilling in a great rapport now with Shane McGuigan. We're well on our way.
At this point in your career, is every fight is a must win because there's not a second opportunity. Like against Martin Murray, although I think the odds were stacked in your favour in that one, like do you know it's must win? I spoke to Tony Bellew recently and he said to me there's numerous fights in his career where if he lost this fight, it was over for him. Did you experience that? Or did you think if you lost to Martin Murray, you can still, because the Gal's still world champion, there's still maybe you might eat some shit and take a lower percentage, but you can still get that fight?
Yeah, no, I don't. I definitely felt like a must win, but a lot of fights felt like a must win. A must win. And yeah, sometimes you can come across. I might have lost to Deloisa because I didn't show up, but then people would have absolutely buried me and I've been dead and forgotten. So yeah, but truth is, there's no fight that you can lose, and I don't ever want to take the shit stick in the DeGale fight, for the belt. I don't want to become famous for losing world title fights, I don't want to become an opponent. That was never the ambition. So yeah, the pressure was on in that respect. It was a must-win fight. I really wanted to box well, wanted to make a statement,
Yeah. So you get the world title fight, Chudinov. People, I mean, he's really good, Chudinov, wasn't he?
Chudinov was, yeah. So, to look at, he didn't look particularly special. He had one loss in his record, which was against Felix Sturm, I think, against a German fighter for a world title fight, who then went on and tested positive for a banned substance. So that should have really been a no contest. And he was world champion at the time. But the belt went vacant, and then me and him got thrown in. I was already a mandatory for it, and then they put him in as well as a former champion. Not huge in stature, not ripped to the bone. Russian, very, very strong, very heavy-handed. But to look at, it looked very easy to hit, and it looked like, for me, I was like, well, if I turn up and perform, it's going to be a comfortable win. I've done a lot of sparring with Frank Buglioni, and Frank, I've always had a lot of time for Frank. He's always been very, very kind to me and that. And he'd boxed Chudinov, right, and lost. And he dropped Chudinov in their fight. He hit him after the bell, right? And it was some shot, right? And
he could dig, couldn't he, Frank? He
had a good whack on him, yeah. You wouldn't want to give him any free shots.
Yeah.
And that's what Chudinov kind of gave him because the bell went, right? Wallop, right? Chudinov got up, right? So I thought...
She knew he's tough.
He's probably got a good chin, yeah. And then I listened to an interview with Frank maybe like it was Talk Sport, something like that, and it was in the build up to my fight with Chudinov, and they sort of said, Frank, you've sparred with George and you fought Chudinov, who do you think's going to win? And he kind of sat on the fence, right? And I thought, for a split second, I thought, oh, Frank, like he's protecting his loss, like against Chudinov.
Course, yeah.
He's because I said we sparred, and surely he's going to say, oh, George will wipe him out. But then I thought back and I thought, well, let me think about who Frank Buglioni is, and he's not that guy. Like he's not that insecure that he has to protect his loss by making out Chudinov's better than what he is. So I thought maybe this dude is a little bit better than he can sometimes look on telly.
And that's common, isn't it, mate? Because I thought the same with Froch. I remember watching Froch against Duell, and I thought he just nicked it, but could have went either way against Duell. I didn't think he boxed very well that night. And I look at Froch and think, he's so easy to hit. Like, his arm is really low, he takes shots, he's quite slow on his feet. You mentioned earlier, he kind of crosses his feet. He's not, like, technically a very good, like, a great boxer. But when you're in the ring with him, he's really hard to hit. Like, he's way better when you're standing face to face to him than just watching him. And I guess Chudinov is the same, right? Like, he was actually...
But Chudinov was better in that he was better than he sometimes looks on telly, right? Not the fastest feet. Hand speed was decent, very easy to hit, showed a lot of target, but tremendously strong. Much like Froch, like he could take one and just swallow it and come straight back. And that's kind of how the fight panned out from the beginning with me. And it could easily have been a fight where I could suffocate. If it came early in my career and I didn't have the experience that I had, up until this point, I could have come unstuck because I couldn't create that. I couldn't keep him honest. Like I could create the distance with my movement, but I couldn't keep him marching forward. Now, usually guys I can hit so hard that, that keeps them honest. It keeps them at double distance. They don't want to take no free shots, But he could just walk through the shots, Thankfully for me, it felt like he was easy to hit. Like it wasn't a struggle to hit him. So that's confidence in yourself. So like you dig one downstairs, he might not show any signs of that, but 3 rounds time that should slow him down. That I'm banking some good work here. But come the 3rd round, I'm on the ropes. I'm just sort of half slipping and sliding. The bell's about to go, so I just think, well, it's another round 1. He rolls a right hand over, and he breaks the jaw again. So I know that feeling, don't I? And I've had that before. I hear the crack. I'm like, oh, I can't shut my jaw properly because my teeth are in the way. I was like, oh, okay, right. So it's just got a little bit interesting.
Is it painful at that time? Was the adrenaline pumping so much that, like, it's sore, but the pain's not really a thing?
Yeah, it's painful, but pain's not really a thing. You are thinking, don't give him any more shots because it really hurts if you any sort of whack on it. But at the same time, it's not, it's not the be or end all. I don't take the gum shield out after that round because you can't. If I get it out, that's going to hurt. It's not going to go back in. The next round, I get cut above the eye. Blood's pouring into the eye now. This is
2 big counts of adversity in this fight.
Yeah,
broken jaw and a cut eye.
This is starting to get real tough. Like I'm landing shots on him, but he ain't slowing down yet. The 5th round, I win, and I feel like, oh, okay, I'm starting to calm him down now. But the 6th round, he comes out, and he maybe his trainer said, look, you need to get on him now. Start opening that cut or whatnot. So he starts 6th round pretty tenaciously, but I drop back, catch him with a great right hand, and it momentarily stuns him. And then
and that's enough for you to see, like a little glimmer of hope.
This is it now. It's now or never. Fourth time of trying, you can't come again. You don't want to come again. It is now or never. I'd signed a contract to go into the World Boxing Super Series as the number 1 seed, as a WBA World Champion, with life-changing money, life-changing opportunities to win this. If I get beat, I go in as an unseeded fighter with a 20th of the fucking purse. Pressure's on. Like, do I even want to go in this tournament off the back of a loss? Like, is this me cooked? Is this me baked? Is this me done? Momentarily stun him. seize the day, seize the opportunity.
And do you think because it's great how it's all coming together, do you think you jumped on him because you didn't against Froch?
No, I don't think necessarily that, but yeah, this is a different situation. Like Froch 1 wasn't last chance saloon. This is last chance saloon. Yeah. You know, this is you're 6 rounds into this fight now with a broken jaw, a cut eye. It doesn't seem to, he doesn't seem to be showing too many weaknesses here. But much different from the first Froch fight. It's not right hand happy on the button. Now I'm going right hand, left hook, body. I'm trying uppercuts. I'm throwing every shot in the book because I don't want him to get punched numb from just the same attack. Also, I don't want to let him off the hook here. That fear of emptying a tank and not winning, and then having the fight carry on.
Soul destroying.
Yeah, but I was ready to have my soul destroyed at this point because I had to leave it all in the ring. He's still on his feet at the end, but he's 30 odd unanswered punches later. The referee, Howard Gray, Steve Gray, waves the bout off. Finally, at the 4th attempt to become WBA super middleweight champion of the world. The weight of the world is lifted from my shoulders. Just unbelievable relief. It's not joy, it's not happiness, it's relief. Which I'm not even sure if that's the best feeling to feel at that particular point. Probably joy and happiness would be, but I can't lie, it's sheer relief. But it doesn't get any better. It's my favourite moment in boxing. Unwavering self-belief, resilience, like time and time again to get me there. And spoke about it earlier, like, you have to have the experiences to appreciate them, good and bad. And to get to that stage where you're like, wow, I've got a story to tell now, I can walk away from boxing happy. Mission complete, can relax. That was lovely. The weight of the world, as I say, lifted from the shoulders. Breathe a sigh of relief.
Mate, I got tingles just listening to this. I remember watching you, so proud. I knew pretty much everything that you'd been through. I knew how much it meant for you. And like you said, you only really know like true happiness or true joy when you've been to the bottom. And I know how low you are after Froch, how low you are after Badu Jack. And to climb that mountain, you mentioned earlier, you'd been almost to the top, but not quite at the top. And now you're finally there. And to be world champion, man, I'm just so unbelievably proud of you and the career you had.
Oh, thank you very
And
much.
Mate,
likewise, man. No, but your story is great, and your story is great. Your story is a story that fits the genre, fits what I'm trying to talk about. Like when I'm talking about unwavering self-belief and resilience, you showed it time and time again, coming over losses and injuries in your boxing career. And this is where I was stumbling for ages on the message I was trying to deliver. Is like, it is not keep going. It's not just keep going. There's more to it. I go through 7 key traits of a champion, and the last one is to be willing to restart, to start over. And that's what you had to do when you decided to become a wrestler, No, seriously, because you must have learned that you've made your sacrifices, you've stayed focused, you've dedicated your time, you've done all these other things that need to be done, but ultimately you've got to then do the toughest choices to call it a day. Dust your hands off and say, well, even if it ain't what I thought it was going to be, it's going to have to be something else, and then you're back. It's a circle, man. You go, be willing to start over and then keep going, because now you're starting something new. Now you're a professional wrestler, and fucking you go hit with a whole heap of new problems that you've got to deal with, right? But you keep going, and then you just keep going round the circle of things that give you that resilience and that confidence 100%. And that belief to be a success, man.
And I think that's what it is, isn't it? Like we mentioned earlier about banking certain things. I mean, like, I think to be successful in one thing, everything that takes you there, like you can repackage it and do it in something else. I don't see, you see all these different people that like, you know, become millionaires and they lose it all and then do it again. It's not because they were lucky, it's because what they did to make a millionaire, they did it again and they repackaged it. And that's life and that's what this podcast is all about, falling down and getting back up. You know, having great amount of adversity, unfortunate things happen sometimes in life. We get knocked down in boxing in life, and you've got no choice but to get back up and crack on again, because what's your alternative? Sulk and whinge and be a prick the rest of your life and say it's not fair. That's certainly not me. That's not you. That's not what champions do. They get up and they crack on. But mate, unbelievable. Obviously in your career you went on and you had more fights and you earned good money and you done this and you done that. But I think leaving it on that night, Bramwell Lane, becoming world champion after the huge setbacks you had before, is a great way to end your story. And as I said, mate, I'm proud to be your friend. I'm proud to have shared your journey as well in the amateurs, room sharing together, sparring together in the pros. It's just, mate, it's been an honour to watch your career pan out, and I'm very proud of you. And as I said at the very beginning, mate, you look really well. You got a beautiful wife, you got amazing kids, and yeah, mate, you did it. I'm so proud. Well done. That was an amazing episode. Thank you so much, George, for coming on and talking to me. I loved how George had never spoken in that much detail, from the Carl Froch fights, the first fight at Manchester Stadium when he almost became world champion, to the big knockout loss at Wembley Stadium, having to get back up metaphorically and literally off the canvas in many fights to come back. And even though he suffered a broken jaw in the world title fight, he still realised the dream he had from being a kid, and that's to become world champion. I made a few points in the podcast, things that I really took away, and obviously unwavering self-belief. He said it a million times in the conversation, because they're so important. Unwavering self-belief. I mean, I talk about unwavering, so I now use the words unwavering self-belief, because it's so important. You have to back yourself, not just in boxing, but when you go to that business meeting, when you're raising kids, anything, you have to believe in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, and guess what? Then nobody else is going to believe in you. I liked how he said these exact words were, you're always fighting for yourself, in boxing and in life. And I always say, boxing is a snapshot of life. The things we go through in a 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 round contest echoes in life. You're always fighting for yourself. You've always got to believe in yourself, and you're always fighting for yourself. I love that in that Chudinov fight, George talked about that was the last chance to learn. Broken jaw, cut eye. His eye could have got worse in the very next round. He could have got stopped himself. There was no chance he was going to get another world title fight after being beaten in 4 world title fights. It was the last chance to learn. He gave his all in that fight, and he became world champion. And I think in life, we have these moments in life where you've got to go for it. You've got to, when your back's against the wall and it's your last chance to learn, you can't leave no stone unturned. You've got to give it your all. And George did in that fight to become world champion. So that's a great lesson there. Sometimes you've got to just do it. Just go for it. And, whenever that last chance to learn may be for you. And George mentioned, he talked about, how do you only know happiness when you've been sad. Like, nobody's happy all the time. You only know true happiness when you've been sad. You only know when you can really appreciate getting to the top when you've been to the bottom. George was at the bottom, getting beaten by Froch 1, 2 times, getting beaten by Badu Jack. He hung on in there, and then he became the world champ. He achieved his true happiness. Now, he could have done that in his 15th fight. Maybe, well, obviously he couldn't because he didn't, but had he had done that in his 15th fight with never getting beaten, how special would that moment have been? I mean, obviously it would have been a great moment, but I think it was made even more special because of the journey they went through. So that's another thing, another lesson, another life lesson that I took from this. When you go from bad times, just almost want to kind of like be appreciative of the bad times, because they're a precursor to better times. And when you get out of the bad times, which we all eventually do, it could be a day, a month, a year, 10 years, but eventually if we work hard enough and we do all the right things for ourselves, we'll get out of the bad times. Then when we reach our Mount Olympus, our George Groves winning the world title, it just makes those moments so much special, so much more special. So just, almost enjoy and appreciate the bad times, because they are a precursor to success. So with that being said, I want to wrap up this podcast by saying thank you so much, George Groves. You're an absolute legend. But from one legend to the next, we're rolling on every single week, bringing more positive, more inspiring stories to you on the Getting Back Up podcast. And we've got George Peasgood on the podcast. George, again, as I said, is an absolute legend. George is a Paralympian. He's a medal winner. He won 2 different medals in 2 different sports in 2 different days at the Tokyo Paralympics back in 2021. As well as that, George has suffered massive amounts of adversity outside of sport. He got run over by a tractor when he was very young, leaving his leg mangled. Hence, he's a Paralympic athlete because of his leg. And just last year, and 18 months ago, George fell off a bike when he was training for the World Championships and suffered a bad brain injury. He's made a miraculous recovery, and listen to the conversation because it's unbelievably inspiring from a wonderful person. So, with that being said, remember in life, when you get knocked down, there's only one thing to do, and that's to get back up. See you next week.